The night of closest approach arrived. Humanity, in all its diversity, was united in one thing: waiting. The world held its collective breath. Some gathered on rooftops and beaches, others huddled in living rooms, and many stood alone in fields, watching the sky blaze with a comet unlike any ever seen. 3-1 Atlas stretched across the heavens like a living scar of fire and ice, its tail unfurling in streams of luminous silver and gold, its core pulsing like a heartbeat that the entire Earth seemed to feel in its bones. It was no longer just an astronomical visitor. It was presence. It was witness. It was here. Governments had long since lost control of the narrative. What could politics or authority do in the face of such grandeur? No speech could calm the storms of wonder or the waves of dread. Science, religion, philosophy, all blurred together. Humanity found itself on the shore of the unknown, staring across a cosmic ocean, waiting to see what would emerge. And then, at the precise moment predicted by astronomers, the comet revealed its truth. The fissures that had been glowing along its surface split wide, spilling radiant light into the void. Not chaotic bursts, but precise beams that cut across the stars like pillars of fire. Instruments recorded impossible energy levels, far beyond what ice and dust could produce. The comet was no natural wanderer. It was alive, or it was built, or it was both. And the shadows, the strange companions that had followed it for weeks, came into full view, no longer faint smudges. They resolved into shapes that defied easy description. They were not ships in the way humanity imagined ships, nor creatures in any terrestrial sense. They were geometric, crystalline, but in constant flux, folding and unfolding into forms that seemed to rewrite themselves moment by moment. They spun slowly, deliberately, in patterns that echoed the comet's pulsing rhythm. The world watched in awe as dozens became hundreds. The shadows formed a lattice, a vast and shifting web that encircled the comet like guardians or attendants. And then, impossibly, they began to move toward Earth. Panic erupted instantly. Sirens wailed in cities, broadcasts stammered with breaking alerts, leaders tried to issue orders. Militaries scrambled jets, launched surveillance drones, primed defense systems, but none of it mattered. No missile, no weapon, no strategy could match what unfolded. The shadows did not descend in violence. They descended in silence. They streaked through the upper atmosphere like falling stars, leaving trails of light that faded not into ash, but into shimmering veils that lingered in the sky. Witnesses described them as curtains of aurora, glowing sheets that stretched across continents. And then, just as suddenly, they vanished, not gone, but integrated, as if absorbed into the air, the land, the oceans themselves, and humanity felt it, all at once. Billions experienced a surge of something impossible to describe. It was not language, though it carried meaning. It was not vision, though it revealed images. It was not sound, though it resonated deep within the marrow of every being. Some fell to their knees in reverence, others clutched their heads in fear. Some wept openly, overwhelmed by beauty beyond comprehension. The message, if it could be called that, was simple and yet infinite. You are not alone. You never were. You are part of a greater story. But beneath that reassurance was something more. An invitation. Dreams that had haunted humanity for weeks coalesced into clarity. The crystalline planes, the impossible geometries, the voices of light. They were not random visions. They were destinations, portals, paths. And now, as the comet blazed across the sky, the invitation became urgent. Humanity was being offered a choice to remain as it was, isolated, small, fragile in the face of cosmic vastness, or to step forward, to evolve, to join a network of life that spanned the stars, But choice was not free of fear, for with every invitation comes risk. What would be lost? What would be gained? Would stepping forward mean surrendering what made humanity human? Or was humanity always meant to be more than it had imagined? As debate raged across the globe, strange phenomena multiplied. Oceans glowed faintly with bioluminescence in patterns that matched the comet's rhythm. Forests pulsed with synchronized bursts of light, as though trees themselves had become conduits of communication. Children born in the days of closest approach opened their eyes wide and stared at the comet with impossible awareness, as if greeting an old friend. And then came the most astonishing event of all. On mountaintops, in deserts, in the middle of cities, structures appeared, not built by human hands, but manifesting in silence, shimmering into existence as though phased in from another dimension. Towers of crystalline material, humming with energy, humming in perfect synchrony with the comet's pulse. They stood as beacons, as gateways, and those who dared approach them found themselves overcome with visions of stepping across light-filled corridors into other worlds, worlds where life flourished in forms both familiar and alien, but no one yet dared to step through. The towers were not doors that opened on command. They were thresholds that required acceptance. The comet was not forcing anything upon humanity. It was offering, and that, perhaps, was what made the decision hardest of all. The world fractured into hope and terror. Some gathered at the crystalline towers, ready to walk into the unknown, convinced it was humanity's destiny. Others warned that it was a trap, a seduction that could erase Earth forever. Some prayed, others protested, still others simply watched, paralyzed by the weight of choice. But the comet's time was limited. It would pass, as all comets do. Its window of invitation would not last forever. The night stretched on, filled with tension so deep it could be felt in the very air. The comet's light cast long shadows across the earth, shadows that seemed to move with intention, as though waiting. Humanity stood at the edge of its future, knowing that dawn would not only bring a new day, but possibly a new existence. And then, just before the first light of morning, something happened that no one had predicted. One of the towers opened. It did not open with force or spectacle. It opened like a flower, unfolding with elegance, revealing a core of blinding light. And from within, a figure stepped forward. It was not human, nor entirely alien. It was form made of light, shape without substance, presence without mass. And yet, in that moment, every person who saw it felt the same impossible truth. It was familiar. It was kin. The figure raised its hand, or what could be called a hand, and the world fell silent. And in that silence, the message came again. You are not alone. You never were. Step forward, and then, without another word, the figure turned, walked back into the tower of light, and was gone. The tower pulsed once, as if waiting, and humanity knew the decision could no longer be delayed. Would we step into the light, or would we remain in the shadows of our own fear? The comet blazed brighter than ever, its heartbeat thundering across sky and soul alike, urging us toward the future. And so the story ended where it began, with a question not whether 3i Atlas carried life, but whether we were ready to carry it forward. As 3i Atlas moved deeper into the solar system, interest in this icy traveler grew, drawing in the attention not only of professional astronomers, but also of countless amateur observers who turned their telescopes toward the night sky. To the human eye, it appeared as a faint streak of light, fragile and distant, almost unremarkable. Yet the instruments recording its passage revealed that it was anything but ordinary. Its brightness shifted unexpectedly, flaring one night, fading the next, as if layers of material within it were awakening in response to the growing warmth of the sun. This unpredictability was not unheard of among comets, but in 3IATLAS it carried an edge of mystery. For this was not a child of our sun. It was a stranger, carrying within it the unknown chemistry of another system, perhaps another world entirely. Each new observation added to the puzzle. Its tail appeared fractured, not a simple plume of dust and gas, but layered and split, curling like ribbons through the void. Shadows seemed to ripple across these tails, faint but persistent, while some claimed these were illusions born of limited instruments. Others insisted that the shadows behaved too deliberately, as though responding to some hidden force. A comet's tail, under normal circumstances, should simply flow away from the sun, carried by solar wind. But these forms shifted, curved, and lingered, reluctant to disperse. Could they be clumps of heavier matter? Could they be signs of an unusual chemistry? Or could they be something else altogether, something that challenged our understanding of what a comet could be? The debate grew heated. On one side, scientists urged caution, reminding us that nature often appears stranger than it is, and that patterns we see in the sky may be illusions. On the other side, voices emerged that dared to wonder if this comet was not merely natural. Could it be carrying signs of life? Could the shadows themselves be biological in origin, a strange residue of organic matter hidden within the comet's depths? If so, this would not only confirm the theory of panspermia, it would reshape our understanding of the universe itself. Panspermia is a word that has echoed through centuries of speculation. The idea that life might travel between worlds, drifting across galaxies, carried on rocks and comets, spreading like seeds through fertile soil. Ancient philosophers once dreamed that life might be eternal, seeded everywhere, waiting only for the right conditions to bloom. In the modern age, we discovered amino acids within meteorites. We found sugars and nucleobases in cosmic dust, and we even witnessed comets that carried unexpected complexity in their chemistry. Each discovery brought us closer to the thought that perhaps life is not confined to one world. Perhaps life is a pattern, repeated again and again, wherever the universe allows. If that is true, then 3I Atlas may not be an exception. It may be part of the rule. It may be the latest messenger, carrying fragments of its own system's chemistry, or even the frozen echoes of organisms that once thrived under another sun. The journey of such a comet is long beyond comprehension, spanning millions of years, drifting through interstellar darkness where temperatures fall to unimaginable lows. And yet, within this frozen silence, life could wait, protected beneath ice, shielded from radiation, hidden away in slumber until at last the warmth of a new star awakens it. Earth itself may have been seeded in such a way, its oceans enriched by the fragments of ancient travelers. If so, then every life form on this planet, from the simplest cell to humanity itself, is part of a greater story. A story of life that does not belong to one world, but to the cosmos entire. The possibility is as inspiring as it is unsettling. For if life can travel freely, then the galaxy may be filled with countless worlds where biology has taken hold. Some may be familiar, others may be entirely alien, with chemistries unlike anything we know. And if comets like 3I Atlas carry these seeds, then each one is not just an icy rock, but a messenger carrying secrets we cannot yet unlock. This thought haunted many as the comet drew closer, because if it does carry life, then we may not be witnessing something benign. We may be witnessing a delivery, a transfer, an arrival of something unknown into our system. At observatories around the world, data was gathered relentlessly. Telescopes tracked the comet night after night. Radio dishes listened for signals, and probes analyzed the chemical spectra of its emissions. What they found was strange. The ratios of hydrogen to carbon, of oxygen to nitrogen, did not quite match what we expect in comets born of our sun. There were unusual isotopic signatures, faint hints of molecules that should not exist in such abundance. To some, this was a mere curiosity, but to others, it was a clue, a sign that 3I Atlas carried with it the chemistry of another world, a different system, a place where the rules of formation diverged from our own. Among the shadows of its tail, instruments detected faint glimmers, pulses of light so subtle that many dismissed them as noise. But others lingered on the data, asking why such pulses appeared at regular intervals, why they seemed to move across the shadows rather than remaining static. Could it be reflection? Could it be interference? Or was it something more, something alive, hidden in plain sight? No one could be certain, but the thought lingered. The comet's unpredictability added to the suspense. Its orbit, though calculated with precision, seemed to drift slightly. Its brightness grew when it should have dimmed when it should have flared. It resisted the neat equations we rely on to understand celestial mechanics. Perhaps it was natural, jets of vapor altering its path, but perhaps it was something else, something within exerting an influence unseen. Each anomaly was small, explainable on its own, but together, they painted a picture that refused to settle into ordinary understanding. The public, too, began to notice. News reports carried the story of 3I Atlas, though often buried beneath more immediate events. To most, it was simply another comet, fascinating but distant. Yet to those who looked closer, who followed the reports, it was something more. It was a whisper of the unknown, a chance that life itself was being carried into our solar system from beyond. Online forums filled with speculation, theories grew wild, and some even claimed that 3I Atlas might not be a natural comet at all, but an object of design. Though such claims lacked evidence, they revealed the hunger of the human imagination, the desire to find meaning in the unknown, and through it all, the comet drifted on, silent, patient, indifferent to our questions. It had traveled across unimaginable distances, crossing the gulf between stars, carrying within it secrets older than our world. Now, as it passed into the heart of our system, it was watched by thousands of eyes, its every movement recorded, its every change debated, and yet the truth of what it carried remained hidden, locked within its frozen depths. Imagine the journey of such an object, cast out from its home system, perhaps by the gravity of a giant planet or the collapse of a distant star. It drifted for millions of years through emptiness. It passed through clouds of dust, through the shadows of nebulae, across the void where no light shines, and all the while, if life lay hidden within it, that life endured, frozen, preserved, waiting. It is a humbling thought to imagine that across such distances, across such timescales, something as fragile as life might persist. Yet the evidence from our own planet suggests it is possible. Life is resilient. Life clings to existence even in the harshest conditions. Why not here, in the heart of a comet from beyond? If 3i Atlas does carry life, then it holds answers to questions humanity has asked for millennia. Are we alone? Did life begin here, or did it come from the stars? And if it came, then where else has it gone? Are there countless other worlds where the seeds of biology have taken root, where oceans teem with creatures we cannot yet imagine? If so, then the galaxy is not silent. It is alive, filled with whispers of existence. Each comet, each rock, each wandering fragment may be a message, a delivery, part of a grand cycle that binds us all. Yet with these possibilities comes caution. For what if the life carried by 3i Atlas is not compatible with ours? What if it awakens, not as friend, but as rival? What if it thrives in ways that reshape the balance of our world? The comet may be a gift, but it may also be a challenge, a reminder that life is not always kind, that survival is not always gentle. The shadows trailing behind it may be harmless dust, or they may be something waiting, something preparing for arrival. And so, part 2 of this story leaves us in a place of tension. The comet continues its journey, its mysteries intact. We know enough to suspect, to wonder, to fear, but not enough to understand. We watch as its brightness shifts, as its orbit drifts, as its shadows dance in strange patterns. We search for meaning, for answers, for truths hidden in its icy depths. And we cannot escape the thought that within this silent traveler, something extraordinary may rest, something that connects us not only to the stars above, but to the very origin of life itself. 3i Atlas is not just a comet, it is a question moving through space, a question written in ice and dust, a question that may one day change everything we believe. And as we follow it, as we wait for it to reveal its secrets, we are reminded of our place in the cosmos, small, curious, fragile, and yet part of something far greater than we can yet imagine. The comet known as 3i Atlas now drifts ever closer, its pale green light shimmering faintly against the velvet backdrop of interstellar darkness. By now, countless telescopes across Earth have turned toward it, capturing images, spectra, and data, each piece adding to a growing puzzle that seems to stretch far beyond human comprehension. Scientists debate quietly among themselves, but outside the walls of institutions, the air of mystery grows heavier, for while it may appear to be just another wandering rock, there is something different about this traveler, something that makes people pause, not with excitement, but with an unsettled curiosity, as though the comet itself holds secrets not yet meant for us to uncover. Observatories speak of strange fluctuations in its glow, as if its light is pulsing, faint but steady, like the beat of a heart in deep space. Radio astronomers, always cautious, whisper of signals not direct messages, but flickers of energy that rise and fall in rhythmic patterns when the comet rotates. Could it be natural? Perhaps. Yet nature does not always arrange itself in such symmetry. As these observations leak into the wider world, speculation blooms. Some suggest the comet is more than ice and rock. Others whisper it is a vessel, a carrier of something that transcends the imagination. But to truly grasp the weight of what 3i Atlas may represent, one must step back, far beyond the confines of telescopes and instruments, and instead look into the history of humanity itself. For as long as we have stared into the heavens, we have wondered about the origins of life, our life, here on Earth. The story that science tells is extraordinary, but incomplete. Billions of years ago, our planet was barren and hostile, a molten ball slowly cooling beneath a toxic sky. And yet, somehow, in that chaos, chemistry began to stir. Molecules danced, and against all odds, life arose. Did it spark spontaneously here, or was it carried from beyond? This is the heart of panspermia, the idea that the seeds of life drift through the universe, attached to comets, meteors, or perhaps vessels we cannot yet identify. If this idea is true, then every comet that passes us may not simply be a wanderer. It may be a messenger. It may carry within it the memory of another world, another time, another civilization. And in this light, 3IATLAS is more than just an interstellar object. It becomes a question made physical, a question drifting silently toward our sun. Consider the path it has taken. It did not come from the familiar belt of asteroids, nor from the frozen reservoirs of our own Oort cloud. Its velocity, its trajectory, all point to an origin far beyond. It comes from the deep cold between the stars, a place where time moves differently, where objects wander for millions, perhaps billions, of years. In such a place, the possibilities multiply. What if life is not rare? What if it is inevitable? What if comets, like 3I Atlas, are not simply carriers of frozen water and rock, but arcs? What if within their icy cores lie fragments of biology, dormant yet waiting, ready to awaken when conditions are right? The mind lingers on these possibilities. Could the first spark of life on Earth have come in just this way? A comet, long ago, breaking through the atmosphere, scattering fragments into the oceans, fragments that merged with Earth's raw chemistry to create the foundation for everything that followed. If so, then comets are not destroyers, as often feared, but midwives, carriers of continuity, weaving life from one star system to another, like threads in an endless cosmic tapestry. And yet, as poetic as this vision may be, there is another interpretation, one far more unsettling. If comets can carry life, then they can also carry death. For not all biology is harmonious. Not all seeds that fall upon fertile ground grow into something beautiful. What if a comet bears organisms alien to us, organisms for which our planet is unprepared? Could a silent traveler like 3IATLAS harbor such a gift or such a curse? As astronomers continue to study it, they note peculiarities. Its surface appears unusually reflective in certain regions, almost metallic. Its tail behaves strangely, bending not just with the solar wind but in patterns no one fully understands. There are reports, faint but persistent, of chemical signatures not easily explained by natural models. Some argue it is coincidence. Others feel the pull of unease. What is it about this comet that makes people look twice, that inspires not just curiosity, but a kind of quiet fear? Perhaps it is the awareness of its origin, the knowledge that it is not of our system. It is foreign, it is other, and in that otherness lies uncertainty. We do not know what it carries. We do not know what it has seen. We do not know if its journey is random or purposeful. There are myths, old ones, that speak of sky messengers. Cultures across the world recorded fiery visitors that blazed across the sky and were taken as omens. Some believed they brought knowledge. Others believed they brought destruction. It is strange, is it not, how the memory of comets lingers in us, a symbol we cannot shake. Perhaps deep down we have always known that they carry something greater than themselves. And now, as 3IATLAS passes into our awareness, we face the same questions once again. Is it an omen? Is it a gift? Or is it a warning? Scientists cannot answer this yet. Their data is incomplete, their instruments limited. But the comet continues, silent and patient, as though waiting for us to understand. And in the silence, humanity reflects. What if life is everywhere? What if we are not unique? What if we are but one chapter in a story that began far away, long before our sun was even born? The possibility unsettles and comforts in equal measure. To think that life is scattered across the stars means we are not alone. But it also means that we are not central. We are not the beginning nor the end. We are simply a continuation. And perhaps that is the role of 3i. Atlas, not as a threat, not as a savior, but as a reminder. A reminder that life is not bound to one world, one sun, one galaxy. It moves, it adapts, it survives. It crosses unimaginable distances, carried on fragile vessels of ice and dust, waiting patiently until it finds a place to begin again. So we watch the comet. We measure its speed, its glow, its strange anomalies, and we wonder what it carries, not just physically, but symbolically, because in its pale light, humanity sees itself reflected, fragile, wandering, searching for meaning in the dark. The comet does not answer. It does not need to. Its presence alone is enough to ignite the questions. And perhaps that is its gift to the awakening of a deeper awareness. A reminder that we are part of something larger than we have ever allowed ourselves to believe. As it drifts past Mars, as it turns slowly toward the sun, a silence hangs across the scientific world. The instruments are still gathering, the data still flowing, but the atmosphere feels different. There is tension. There is suspense. Something about this moment feels pivotal, as though what is discovered here may change not just our understanding of a comet, but of ourselves, and somewhere deep in the stillness of night, as the comet glows faintly above, an unspoken question lingers. Did 3i Atlas carry life across the stars to our solar system? Or is it here to remind us that the story of life is far older, far more complex than we dare to imagine? The answer remains hidden, carried silently within the icy heart of a traveler older than our world, and still it comes closer. The comet 3i Atlas drifts deeper into the embrace of our solar system, crossing invisible boundaries of influence, its presence marked by more than just its shimmering tail. Telescopes across Earth, orbiting observatories, and even instruments on Mars all continue to track it relentlessly. Every day brings new data, and with each new set of readings, the puzzle deepens. It has now become more than an astronomical curiosity. It has become a phenomenon that refuses to be explained. And as its pale green aura intensifies, questions grow louder to the untrained eye. It may appear as nothing more than a streak of light across the night sky, a glowing traveler brushing past our sun's warmth. But for those who study its behavior, for those who sift through spectrographs and radio patterns, it is becoming harder to deny that this object is unlike any comet previously recorded. Some call it an interstellar fragment, some call it an arc, and a few nervously suggest that it may be a creation rather than a coincidence. What unsettles observers most is not only the comet's trajectory, but its consistency. A natural object should wobble, should shift, should dance unpredictably under the influence of gravitational fields. Yet 3i Atlas holds to its path with remarkable precision, as though guided by something more than physics alone. The whispers grow louder. Is it truly just a body of ice and rock, or could it be something deliberately steered? The question is never asked outright in scientific journals, but behind closed doors. Even cautious astronomers feel the tug of our knees. Adding to this mystery are the chemical signatures detected in its glowing tail. Ordinary comets carry water vapor, carbon compounds, silicates, and the usual dust that composes the frozen remnants of planetary formation. But Atlas exhibits faint traces of something else complex, organic molecules in surprising abundance. Molecules that should have been destroyed in the harshness of interstellar space. Some of these resemble amino acids, the building blocks of life itself. The idea takes root. Could this comet be carrying a cargo not yet fully understood? Could it be more than a travelet? Could be a seed? The theory of panspermia, long relegated to the margins of science, now enters mainstream conversation. The public begins to hear about it in news reports, documentaries, even whispered discussions on late-night broadcasts. The possibility that life may not have started here, but arrived here, gains traction. The thought is thrilling to some, disturbing to others. If life on Earth did not originate on Earth, then what does that make us? Children of the stars, or just passengers on a cosmic relay? And if Atlas carries such potential, could it be delivering the same opportunity again? Yet the story does not stop there. Radio observatories begin to report something strange. Rhythmic fluctuations in background noise when the comet passes through certain regions of the sky. At first, they are dismissed as artifacts, interference from Earth-based sources. But the patterns persist, aligning curiously with the comet's rotation. Not language, not signal in the human sense, but something patterned, something too structured to be mere chaos. Some scientists call it coincidence. Others begin to wonder if it is something more, perhaps the echo of processes within the comet itself. Processes that may not be entirely natural. The unease grows heavier. If this comet carries not just molecules, but a message or worse, an intention, then the implications are staggering. And yet, nothing conclusive can be said. The comet does not reveal its secrets easily. It drifts in silence, glowing faintly, refusing to explain itself. Humanity is left to wonder, to project, to question what it truly carries in its icy heart. And here lies the suspense. Because the closer it draws, the stronger the sense becomes that something is waiting to be discovered, something hidden beneath its glittering shell. The light it casts onto the solar system feels almost deliberate, as though it wishes to be seen, as though it wishes to remind us of something we have forgotten. History provides a curious backdrop to these events. Across cultures, comets have always been omens, harbingers of change. Ancient scribes wrote of fiery visitors as signs from the gods, symbols of endings and beginnings. Kings trembled when comets crossed their skies, fearing the loss of power. Entire civilizations recorded them with awe and terror. The memories of these moments linger in our myths, etched into the fabric of human memory. Could it be that our ancestors were not entirely wrong? Could there be a reason humanity has always regarded comets with such weight? Perhaps somewhere deep within, we have always sensed their role in the cosmic cycle, and now, standing at the edge of modern discovery, we face the same unease as those who watched the skies millennia ago. But unlike them, we have instruments, data, science. We can measure, we can analyze, and yet the questions remain just as haunting. The silence just as heavy. It is during this time that a curious development occurs. A probe sent years ago to study the outer regions of the solar system. Its mission nearly complete, happens to capture readings as 3I Atlas passes nearby. What it records is startling. A brief surge of electromagnetic energy, not random, but pulsed. It lasts only seconds, then fades, leaving nothing but ordinary silence behind. The probe transmits the data back to Earth, and when scientists examine it, they are struck by its peculiar regularity. Not natural, not chaotic, but ordered. As though the comet released a heartbeat of energy in response to the probe's passing. No explanation satisfies. Some claim it is an interaction with the solar wind, a quirk of physics. Others hesitate, staring at the data, unwilling to say the word but unable to dismiss it. Intentional. Did the comet respond? Did it acknowledge the presence of our machines? Or is this simply our imagination projecting meaning onto noise? The debate rages quietly, hidden from the public eye, but unease trickles outward. In the corners of society where speculation thrives, stories grow. Some whisper that the comet is a vessel carrying life across the void. Others claim it is an ancient artifact, left adrift by a civilization older than we can imagine. And still others, more fearful, suggest it is no accident that it has come here, no coincidence that its path intersects ours. Perhaps it is a test. Perhaps it is a warning. Yet through it all, the comet continues, silent, indifferent to human speculation. Its glow intensifies as it approaches the inner solar system, its tail stretching across the darkness like a luminous scar. Observers on Earth marvel at its beauty, unaware of the debates, the fears, the strange signals. For most, it is simply another celestial wonder, a spectacle to inspire awe. But for those who study it closely, it is becoming a mirror, reflecting back humanity's deepest questions about origin, destiny, and survival. And so we arrive at a moment heavy with suspense, for the comet will not pass silently. It will interact. Already its influence is felt not through collision or destruction, but through the way it stirs thought, the way it unsettles certainty. Humanity finds itself on the cusp of revelation, though none yet know what form it will take. Will it confirm our hopes that life is abundant, that we are not alone? Or will it shatter those hopes, revealing something far darker? No answer yet emerges. The comet carries its secrets tightly, wrapped within its icy shell, hidden from the probing eyes of science. And perhaps that is the most unsettling part of all, for in its silence, in its refusal to explain itself, it forces us to confront our own limitations. It reminds us that not everything can be measured, not everything can be reduced to data. Some truths, perhaps, must be experienced. Some mysteries must be lived. And so, as 3i Atlas continues its journey, we wait, we measure, we imagine, and above all, we wonder, what does it carry? What story does it tell? And what role does it play in the unfolding drama of life across the stars? The suspense lingers, heavy and unbroken, as though the universe itself holds its breath. The comet glows, silent and patient, and humanity stares upward, caught between awe and unease. The answer lies ahead, but not yet revealed. And in the waiting, in the silence, the mystery only deepens. The pale green glow of 3i Atlas now stretches longer across the night sky, its shimmering veil visible even to those with the simplest of telescopes. To the public, it is a spectacle and interstellar wonder, a glowing traveler passing through our celestial neighborhood. But beneath the awe lies a growing tension, for among those who watch it most closely, unease continues to deepen. Data has piled up, observations multiplied, and still the comet refuses to behave as it should. at this stage of its journey. Astronomers expected certain behaviors, predictable tail alignment with the solar wind, rotational wobble. Instead, what they see unsettles them. Its tail bends, not just with the stream of solar particles, but in faint, deliberate arcs, almost as though adjusting. Its brightness fluctuates, not randomly, but in pulses regular, repeating, measured. And though most of the public remains unaware, whispers within the scientific community speak of patterns far too precise to be dismissed. The first major crack in the facade of secrecy comes from an observatory in South America. While conducting long-range monitoring, their team captures images of faint shadows trailing the comet. At first, they are thought to be debris, small fragments breaking away, as is common with such bodies. But analysis shows otherwise. These shadows do not scatter. They do not drift apart. They move in unison, holding positions relative to the comet as though tethered to it. They are too regular, too aligned, too controlled. The scientists hesitate to release their findings, but the images leak nonetheless. Suddenly, the world is abuzz with speculation. Are these natural fragments? Or are they something else? Perhaps structures, perhaps companions. Theories spread like wildfire. Some suggest the comet is breaking apart, its fragments held together by gravity. Others propose the presence of unknown electromagnetic forces. And then, more daring voices ask the question aloud. Could these be artificial? Could 3 IATLAS be accompanied by something not of natural origin? The silence from official channels only fuels the speculation. Space agencies remain cautious, withholding comment until further confirmation. But their refusal to address the growing rumors only deepens suspicion. For the first time, the idea that this comet may not be alone begins to take hold on a global scale. And still, the comet draws nearer. Its green aura grows brighter, casting a faint but eerie glow against the velvet darkness of space. Amateur astronomers begin reporting strange phenomena of their own. Some claim to see faint flashes near the comet's nucleus, brief pulses of light like distant beacons. Others speak of distortions, as though space itself ripples faintly around it. None of these observations are consistent, yet together they weave a pattern of unease. Something about 3I Atlas does not sit quietly within the expected boundaries of science. Theories of panspermia gain new traction. If the comet carries fragments of life, what form might they take? Could those shadows trailing it be vast clouds of organic material, clumps of frozen microorganisms riding alongside, waiting for release? Could they be biological in ways we do not yet understand? For billions of years, life has shown resilience beyond expectation, surviving in the most hostile of conditions. Microbes endure frozen wastes, boiling springs, the vacuum of space. Could it be that these fragments trailing the comet are more than dust? Could they be life itself, shielded and preserved until the right conditions allow it to flourish? The idea both fascinates and terrifies. If true, then the comet is not just a visitor, is a carrier, an ark bearing within it seeds that may not be of Earth. It may represent not only our past, but our potential future, the proof that life indeed crosses the gulf between stars. But what kind of life? And is Earth prepared for what it may bring? As questions mount, something even stranger occurs. A radio telescope in Australia detects a signal faint, elusive, but undeniably structured. It is not a continuous broadcast, not a message in the conventional sense, but a burst of ordered pulses, timed to match the comet's rotation. The discovery is met with skepticism at first. Interference is the most likely explanation, but repeated observations confirm it. Each time the comet rotates, the pulses recur, synchronized with precision. They are too regular, too deliberate, too intentional. The debate within the scientific community reaches a breaking point. Some argue passionately that these are natural processes, phenomena misunderstood or misinterpreted. Others admit, in quiet tones, that they have no explanation. Could the comet be emitting information? Could it be broadcasting something, not to us, but perhaps to others? This possibility shifts the tone entirely. If 3I-ATLAS is not simply carrying life, but communicating, then it may represent something far beyond our imagination. The comet may not just be a vessel, it may be a messenger. And if it is a messenger, then who or what sent it? The shadows trailing the comet grow more mysterious. New images show them shifting subtly, not drifting apart like debris but maintaining patterns, almost as though maneuvering. They appear at times elongated, at others compact, yet always in formation. Their presence raises unsettling questions. Could they be probes? Could they be mechanisms designed to protect or guide the comet? The silence surrounding them is deafening. Officials say little, but the leaked data paints an increasingly compelling picture. Public fascination turns to obsession. News channels broadcast nightly updates. Social media swirls with theories, from the plausible to the bizarre. Some believe the comet carries the remnants of a lost civilization, their last fragments drifting endlessly through space until they found our star. Others suggest it is a deliberate delivery, a seed cast across the cosmos by beings who knew that life must spread or perish. And then, in darker corners, fear grows. What if it is not a gift, but a trap? What if the comet carries not life, but something inimical to ours? The mystery is heightened when atmospheric disturbances on Earth begin to correlate faintly with the comet's approach. Seismic monitors register unusual patterns, not quakes, but subtle tremors synchronized eerily with the comet's pulses. Weather satellites detect fluctuations in the upper atmosphere, faint but measurable, aligning once again with ATLAS's presence. Scientists hesitate to link the two, but the timing is too precise to ignore. Could the comet, even at this distance, be influencing our planet? Could its passage awaken forces we do not yet understand? The suspense becomes unbearable. Humanity finds itself at the edge of revelation, staring into a void that refuses to answer. Each observation, each signal, each shadow deepens the mystery, pushing us further from certainty. The comet does not explain itself. It does not reveal its purpose. It drifts silently onward, closer to the sun, trailing shadows that may or may not be fragments, whispering signals that may or may not be intentional. And yet, beneath the fear, there is awe. For never before has humanity been so close to proof that we are not alone, not only in intelligence, but in origin. If the comet carries life, then it is proof that biology is not confined to Earth. It is a universal force, spreading, surviving, awakening wherever it finds a home. It would mean that life is not rare but inevitable, not an accident but a rule of the cosmos. But alongside that awe dread lingers. If life is inevitable, then so is competition. So is conflict. If life spreads across the stars, then perhaps comets are not only carriers of hope, but harbingers of challenge. And perhaps what drifts toward us in a TLAS's shadow is not a gift, but a reckoning. The world waits. Observatories train their instruments. Probes adjust their trajectories. Scientists pore over data with sleepless eyes. The comet continues, indifferent, its pale green glow brightening as it nears the warmth of the sun. Shadows follow it. Signals pulse from it. Questions multiply around it. And still, it refuses to answer. It is here, in this silence, in this waiting, that the true suspense blooms. For humanity knows that revelation is inevitable. The comet cannot pass unnoticed. Its secrets will either be revealed, remain forever hidden in its icy heart. But whichever path unfolds, life on Earth will not be the same. For even the possibility has already changed us, and so we stand beneath the stars, watching, waiting, trembling in awe, wondering what 3IATLAS carries within it, wondering what it will leave behind. The shadows trail on, the signals pulse, the mystery deepens, and humanity, caught between fear and hope, cannot look away. The story of 3I, Atlas, had already drawn humanity into a deep current of wonder, speculation, and silent unease. Astronomers across the world had measured its orbit, charted its speed, and traced the strange ripples in plasma and magnetic fields that seemed to follow it like faint whispers in the void. In observatories, where pale blue lights from computer screens lit the faces of researchers, questions pressed harder with every new image, every new dataset, every new flicker of an anomaly. What exactly was this object, and why did it seem to leave behind clues that were not entirely natural? By now, it was not just the mystery of panspermia, the ancient theory that comets could scatter the seeds of life across the stars, that was being discussed in hushed tones. There was something else, something even more difficult to place, something that hinted not just at biology, but at intention. And so, the whispers surrounding 3I, Atlas, began to drift into darker corners of thought. Could this visitor, silent and gliding through the solar system, be carrying more than frozen gases, dust, and molecules? Could it be carrying a message? Or worse, a presence? In public, space agencies kept their statements calm, neutral, polished. Press conferences spoke of ion tails, reflected light, and rotational dynamics. But behind closed doors, the tone was very different. Private memos circulated through encrypted channels, their language carefully chosen, deliberately vague. The most cautious astronomers spoke of unexplained structural coherence in the material jets, streaming from the comet's surface. Others used phrases like localized energy gradients or persistence of anomalous oscillations. What these words really meant was simple. Parts of 3I, Atlas, behaved as though they were not random. They behaved as if they were controlled. That ideal alone was unsettling. For humanity had long imagined that if life existed beyond Earth, it would reveal itself either in vast civilizations or in microscopic fossils. We had prepared ourselves, at least in imagination, for radio signals echoing across the stars, or for robotic probes finding primitive microbes beneath the ice of Europa. But the possibility that life could travel hidden within a rogue object, passing silently between suns, was something altogether different. And now, 3I Atlas forced us to confront it. Telescopes trained on its surface captured flashes of color, not just the expected icy blues and dusty grays, but hints of green, even faint, shimmering violet. Some dismissed it as artifacts of light scattering in our atmosphere. Others, however, recognized patterns. The hues appeared not at random, but in rhythms, pulsing faintly, like a distant heartbeat. The data was passed through algorithms designed to detect repetition, and once again, the results were unsettling. The light fluctuations matched ratios familiar to biology, frequencies akin to the cycles of respiration, the slow in and out movement of breath. Could 3i Atlas itself be breathing? The thought was almost too much to entertain, but it could not be dismissed outright. In the long history of our planet, life had found ways to endure in places once thought impossible. Microbes had been discovered inside volcanic rock, thriving in temperatures that melted metal. Others lived at the bottom of oceans, feeding on nothing but chemicals seeping from the Earth's crust. Some even lingered in the upper atmosphere, clinging to dust grains and waiting for the winds to carry them. If life could adapt so radically, why not imagine it existing inside a body like 3i, Atlas shielded beneath its surface, dormant for eons, waiting until it passed close enough to a star to awaken. And yet, another possibility emerged, one far stranger. Perhaps what was inside 3i Atlas was not biological at all, but something that only resembled life, a kind of pattern, an algorithm, an alien code embedded not in flesh or cell, but in crystal and ice. Just as human beings had learned to encode digital memory onto silicon chips, perhaps some distant intelligence had long ago discovered how to encode thought into the very structure of matter. If so, then 3i Atlas was not just a visitor. It was a vessel. The theory spread quietly in online forums first, whispered about in communities of amateur astronomers and speculative thinkers. It isn't just carrying life, some wrote. It is life, a different kind of life. Others pushed further. It's not alive in the way we are. It's a seed, waiting for the right soil. As the comet drew closer to Mars, its interactions with the solar wind became impossible to ignore. Auroras appeared on the red planet, glowing faintly green along the horizon, even in regions where no auroras had been seen before. Probes orbiting Mars detected strange electromagnetic fluctuations, bursts of energy that corresponded exactly to the moments when 3i Atlas passed near. It was as though the comet were whispering to the planet, stirring something long silent beneath its surface. And here, the story grew stranger still. Geological monitors stationed on Mars, instruments left by decades of robotic missions, began to record tremors. Not violent quakes, but soft, rhythmic pulses. The data resembled a heartbeat, steady, repeating, subtle yet undeniable. Scientists were baffled. Mars, long considered geologically quiet, was suddenly responding in sync with the arrival of 3i Atlas. What was happening beneath its rust-colored soil? What was being awakened? Back on Earth, the public grew restless. News agencies, sensing the gravity of the story, began reporting not only on the scientific details, but also on the growing unease among researchers. Headlines grew bolder, questions sharper. Is 3i Atlas communicating? Is Mars reacting to its arrival? Interviews with experts, no matter how carefully phrased, could not hide the uncertainty in their voices. Something was happening, something uncharted, and the truth was no longer confined to laboratories and observatories. Among the most haunting questions was one that no one could yet answer. If 3i Atlas carried life, where did it come from? Some suggested it originated in the depths of interstellar space, born from the fragments of a shattered world orbiting a long-dead star. Others wondered if it had passed through multiple solar systems before arriving here, collecting fragments of biology from one world after another, becoming a kind of cosmic ark. And then there were those who dared to ask, what if it was sent? The idea of intention, that some intelligence, somewhere, had placed 3IATLAS on this path, unsettled even the most skeptical minds. Its trajectory, though explainable by the mechanics of gravity and motion, seemed oddly convenient. It had not just wandered aimlessly into our solar system. It had arrived at a time when humanity had the tools to see it, to measure it, to wonder about it. Was that a coincidence, or was it design? The deeper scientists looked, the stranger the data became. Chemical analysis of the gases streaming from its surface revealed compounds that should not have survived in interstellar space for so long, fragile organics that normally broke apart under radiation. Yet here they were, preserved, intact, almost as if they had been shielded or repaired. Some molecules even showed unusual chirality, handedness in their structure that mirrored those found in earthly biology. It was as if the building blocks of our own existence were staring back at us from across the abyss. And with each discovery, one truth grew harder to ignore. 3I Atlas might not simply be a comet. It might be a messenger. If so, then what was its message? Was it warning us, guiding us, testing us? Or was it something far more dangerous, something that would only reveal itself when it was too late to turn back? Humanity now stood at the threshold of revelation. Every telescope, every probe, every eye turned toward, the night sky knew that this was no ordinary visitor. It was a mirror held up against our deepest questions about life, about origin, about destiny. And as 3I Atlas continued its silent glide, strange shadows seemed to follow it, weaving patterns in the dark, patterns that suggested we were not watching it alone. The question pressed itself into the silence of countless observatories and living rooms alike. A question no one yet dared to answer. Had 3I Atlas come to awaken us, or to replace us? The mystery of 3I Atlas had begun to shift from the scientific to the existential. For months, humanity had followed its arc across the sky, studying every detail, scrutinizing every anomaly, and layering discovery upon discovery. Yet the more we learned, the less we seemed to understand. It was as though 3I Atlas had become a mirror in the heavens, reflecting not just light, but our deepest uncertainties about who we are, where we come from, and what might lie beyond the fragile borders of our world. It was at this stage in its journey that 3I ATLAS crossed the midpoint between Mars and Earth from our planet. It grew brighter in the night sky, visible even to ordinary stargazers with binoculars. Its tail stretched like a silver ribbon, glowing faintly green at the edges, and astronomers noted how strangely it pulsed, as though the comet were alive, inhaling and exhaling, carrying some hidden rhythm within its icy core. For some, it was beautiful. For others, it was terrifying. But for everyone, it was impossible to ignore. News outlets fed the fascination. Across television screens and digital feeds, the comet became a constant presence. Documentaries appeared overnight, charting its course and speculating wildly on what secrets it might hold. Internet forums buzzed with theories ranging from the scientific to the fantastical. Some insisted that it was no comet at all, but an alien craft cloaked in dust and ice. Others believed it carried a message written in the language of light, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Still others saw it as an omen, a cosmic sign that humanity was about to cross into a new era, whether we were ready or not. But beneath the noise of speculation, serious discoveries continued to emerge. Observatories in Chile, Hawaii, and orbiting satellites confirmed that the comet's composition was unlike anything catalogued before. Not only were there fragile organics and rare isotopes, but also patterns of crystalline structure that seemed engineered rather than accidental. Scientists hesitated to use such a word, engineered, but privately. Many could no longer deny the thought. These patterns, when analyzed, revealed a peculiar geometry, fractals repeating at multiple scales, embedded not just in the surface crust, but throughout the jet streaming from its core. It was as if 3IATLAS carried within it a code, one written not in binary or text, but in the very shape of matter itself. Some compared it to the DNA of life, a natural architecture that stored information across spirals and sequences. Others suggested it resembled something even more deliberate, a lattice of knowledge built to survive the infinite harshness of interstellar space. If that was true, then what was the message hidden inside? Was it a map? Instructions? A warning? As these questions grew heavier, humanity found itself turning inward. Across cultures, old stories resurfaced, myths of fire falling from the skies, of gods riding comets, of serpents made of flame and ice who brought life or destruction to the world. Ancient carvings, once dismissed as poetic symbols, were re-examined. Some appeared eerily similar to the spirals and patterns seen in the data from 3IATLAS. Could our ancestors have known something we had forgotten? Had they seen a visitor like this before, long ago, and tried to leave us a message of their own? The timing felt uncanny. Here we were, a species perched on the edge of artificial intelligence, interplanetary travel, and a fragile planetary climate. And suddenly a visitor appeared, carrying the building blocks of life, perhaps carrying even the story of life itself. Was this coincidence, or was it something greater? Meanwhile, the comet's effects were no longer confined to space. On Earth, strange atmospheric phenomena began to appear. In the high latitudes, auroras surged with unexpected strength, glowing not only in green and red but in deep violet and gold. Radio transmissions picked up faint, repeating signals, pulses buried in static, timed precisely to the moments when 3I Atlas crossed certain positions in the sky. Most dismissed these as interference, but others could not shake the suspicion that the comet itself was speaking. If only we knew how to listen. For the scientists closest to the data, the feeling was growing undeniable. This object was not alone. Shadows seemed to follow it, not literal, not visible with the eye, but present in the way its tail behaved, in the distortions of light, in the phantom echoes in radio waves. Something accompanied 3I ATLAS, something hidden just beyond the reach of certainty. Were they fragments of the comet itself, or smaller objects traveling with it? Or were they something else entirely? In the silence of late nights at observatories, where coffee cups cooled beside telescopes and servers hummed faintly in the background, the thought pressed down on researchers with quiet weight. If 3I Atlas is not alone, then what follows it? And perhaps the deeper question was this: had those shadows been with it since it left its birthplace among the stars, or had they joined it only now as it passed into the realm of humanity's gaze? Publicly, officials spoke carefully, offering reassurances. They reminded the world that comets were common, that 3I Atlas, though unusual, posed no direct threat to Earth, but the people could sense something unspoken. The tone of those reassurances lacked conviction. Beneath the surface of calm words was the unmistakable tremor of uncertainty. In homes, people lingered longer at their windows, gazing at the glowing visitor above. Children pointed to it with awe, asking their parents what it was, whether it was dangerous, whether it meant anything. And the parents, like the scientists, found themselves hesitating, because, in truth, no one knew. Then came a moment that shook even the skeptics. A team of astronomers, using a high-resolution array, detected what appeared to be a burst of structured light from the comet. For several minutes, beams of faint but ordered luminosity radiated outward, like fingers stretching into the void. The pulses were too precise to be random, repeating in sequences that echoed mathematical constants, prime numbers, ratios of circles, harmonics of vibration. It was the kind of signal we had long imagined an alien intelligence might use to announce. Itself, the story could not be contained. Within hours, the news spread across the globe. Headlines screamed of first contact, an alien signal detected. Governments scrambled to downplay the event, calling it a misinterpretation of data, but the public had seen enough. The comet was no longer just a curiosity. It was a presence. What came next was fear. Some feared invasion, imagining that 3I Atlas carried something dangerous, something waiting to be unleashed. Others feared transformation, that its arrival would change us in ways we could not yet understand. But there was also hope, a deep, quiet hope that perhaps, at last, we were not alone. That the universe had chosen this moment to reveal itself. The comet continued its glide, indifferent to our questions, its light painting the night sky, its tail stretching longer, brighter, pulsing faintly like the rhythm of a living being. Humanity could do nothing but watch and wait and wonder, because whatever 3I Atlas carried, whatever truth lay within its icy heart, it was coming closer. And when it arrived, the answer would no longer be hidden in data or speculation. It would stand before us in the open, undeniable, unyielding, and final. And deep down, we all felt it, that the answer, whatever it was, would change us forever. The world had entered a strange state of collective anticipation. By now, 3I Atlas was more than a comet. It was a constant presence in the human imagination, a thread woven into every conversation, every late-night thought, every dream that stirred uneasily in the silence before dawn. Its glow could be seen from rooftops and deserts, reflected in the waters of seas and lakes, watched from villages and cities alike. Humanity had always looked upward, but never with such intensity, never with the sense that the sky itself was holding its breath. As 3I Atlas grew nearer, its strangeness deepened. Amateur astronomers, using nothing more than modest backyard telescopes, began to record peculiar phenomena. The comet's tail did not behave as expected. Instead of streaming smoothly in the solar wind, it broke into threads, each twisting in subtle spirals, intertwining like strands of a cosmic braid. Some swore they saw shadows moving within the glow, faint silhouettes that drifted against the starlight, never in the same place twice. At first, such reports were dismissed as imagination. But then, professional observatories confirmed unusual structures within the tail, dense clumps of material moving in synchronized patterns. As though following instructions, it was this discovery that reignited the oldest question of all. Was 3I Atlas natural, or was it something else? If it carried life, was that life simply clinging to it, or was the comet itself alive? The data pointed to a paradox. On one hand, its composition still showed water ice, carbon dioxide, dust, and organic molecules, the hallmarks of an ordinary comet. But on the other hand, the patterns emerging from its movements and emissions were anything but ordinary. The more closely scientists examined the timing of its light pulses and the flow of its material jets, the more it resembled a language. Not a language of words, but of rhythm. A language of silence and signal, absence and presence, pause and continuation. And this rhythm grew clearer as it approached Earth's orbit. Across the world, teams attempted to decode it. Mathematicians, linguists, and computer scientists worked side by side, feeding data into complex algorithms. Some claimed the pulses corresponded to prime numbers. Others argued they were closer to the Fibonacci sequence, the spiral of growth that underlies seashells, galaxies, and even the human body. Still others saw echoes of ancient myths, noting that the intervals matched cycles described in texts thousands of years old. The possibility that 3i Atlas was speaking to us, or had always been speaking to us, filled the air with a strange electricity. But if it was speaking, what was it saying? Governments urged patience, caution, restraint. Religious leaders offered interpretations that stretched from hope to doom. Some declared it a sign of divine revelation, the messenger of a higher power. Others warned of apocalypse, a cosmic judgment passing through the heavens. Conspiracy theories flourished. Some claimed the object was already steering itself. Others insisted its arrival had been predicted centuries ago and deliberately hidden. And in the midst of all this, ordinary people simply looked upward, caught between awe and unease. It was then that Earth itself began to change. Subtle, almost imperceptible at first, but undeniable to those who paid close attention. Sensitive instruments recorded disturbances in the magnetosphere, shifts that coincided perfectly with the comet's pulses. These disturbances spread downward into the ionosphere, and from there into the atmosphere itself. Weather patterns, already fragile in a warming world, began to show peculiar anomalies. Storms formed where none were expected, not violent but strangely symmetrical, spirals that echoed the comet's braided tail. Animals seemed to sense it too. Migratory birds veered off course, whales altered their ancient paths, insects emerged in swarms out of season. Farmers reported crops germinating too quickly, leaves curling in unfamiliar patterns. Dogs barked at the night sky, their voices sharp, restless, carried into the silence of sleeping towns. Humanity had always lived under the influence of the heavens. But this felt different, as if the very rhythm of the earth was being tuned to match something alien, something arriving from beyond. And then came the dreams. It began with scattered reports, whispered on forums and late-night call-in shows. People claimed they were dreaming of 3i Atlas, not just seeing it in the sky, but standing on its surface, walking across landscapes of glittering ice and shadow. Some described hearing whispers in these dreams, voices that spoke in languages they did not understand but somehow felt familiar. Others said they saw visions of oceans, forests, strange cities of crystal and light. At first, such claims were dismissed as imagination stirred by constant media coverage. But when thousands of people across different continents began describing the same images, the same whispers, it became harder to ignore. Psychologists attempted to explain it as collective suggestion, the human mind shaped by shared stories. But even they could not account for the details, the repeating symbols, the specific numbers, the spirals and patterns that matched the comet's data. Somehow, 3i Atlas was seeping not just into our atmosphere, but into our dreams. It was here that the unease deepened. Because if the comet was communicating, it was not doing so only through instruments and telescopes. It was reaching directly into consciousness. And so the debate shifted once more. Was this communication an invitation, a gift offered across the gulf of stars? Or was it something more insidious, a rewriting of thought, a quiet reshaping of humanity from within? If the comet carried the key to our evolution, was it a key we were meant to turn ourselves, or one that was being turned for us, whether we wished it or not? On Earth, the tension grew unbearable. Governments convened emergency councils, scientists argued late into the night, and ordinary people filled the skies with drones and cameras, desperate for one more glimpse of the visitor. Meanwhile, 3i Atlas moved silently, endlessly, its rhythm never faltering, its glow brightening with each passing night. And then, as if to silence all doubt, something extraordinary occurred. A probe positioned between Earth and the comet transmitted images that stunned the world. Within the braided spirals of its tail, faint luminous shapes were seen, geometric structures, aligned with impossible precision, glowing softly as if lit from within. They were not debris. They were not fragments. They were formations, arranged deliberately, holding their place within the storm of dust and ice. For the first time, the question could no longer be avoided. If 3i Atlas carried these structures, then it was not just a traveler. It was a carrier. A vessel, the only question that remained, and it haunted every mind awake beneath the night sky, was what it carried, and whether we were meant to receive it. The comet drifted closer still, indifferent to fear, to wonder, to speculation. Its glow shimmered across the oceans, reflected in skyscrapers and desert sands alike. Humanity watched, holding its collective breath, waiting for the moment when the secret it carried would no longer be hidden, when the truth would emerge not as speculation but as revelation. And somewhere, in the silence between one heartbeat and the next, the unspoken thought pressed heavier than all the rest. Perhaps it was not we who had discovered 3i Atlas, but 3i Atlas that had discovered us. The night sky had never seemed so alive. As 3i Atlas neared its closest approach, the glow of its tail became a living arc above Earth, stretching like a great banner of light that seemed to watch over every horizon. From the Arctic Circle to the deserts of Africa, from crowded cities to remote islands, humanity turned upward. The comet was no longer just an astronomical object. It was part of our world now, woven into dreams, stories, fears, and hopes. Its presence was undeniable, its influence unavoidable. And the question that weighed most heavily was no longer what is it, but what does it want? In the days leading up to its passage, instruments across the globe recorded anomalies of a kind never seen before. Radio telescopes picked up bursts of structured noise, their patterns echoing the sequences of prime numbers. Seismographs, meant to measure earthquakes, detected faint tremors, not from beneath the earth, but resonances from above, as if the sky itself were humming. Satellites orbiting our planet found their trajectories subtly altered, pulled not just by gravity, but by something less understood, something like magnetism, but stranger, deeper. And then, as if in response to these mysteries, the comet revealed something new. A probe orbiting Earth transmitted images of the comet's core that seemed to defy explanation. Beneath the crust of ice and dust, glowing fissures appeared, opening and closing in cycles. From within, light streamed outward, soft at first, then sharp, as though something inside were awakening. The light was not constant, but pulsed, synchronized with the same rhythms that had been detected in radio waves and seismic vibrations. Whatever this was, it was coherent. It was deliberate. It was alive in some way we could not yet define, and it was not only machines that bore witness. Around the world, millions reported strange sensations as they gazed at the comet. Some described an almost magnetic pull, as though their minds were being drawn outward, their thoughts stretched into the sky. Others reported visions, glimpses of landscapes, oceans, forests that were not Earth's, yet felt achingly familiar. A few spoke of voices, faint and echoing, whispering in languages they did not know but understood nonetheless. And always, these visions carried the same feeling, that something vast, something intelligent was reaching out. Scientists were caught in a struggle between explanation and awe. Some argued that it was a form of panspermia, the comet releasing signals and substances that could trigger life or thought. Others insisted it was an artificial construct, designed by a civilization far older and greater than ours. Still others clung to caution, warning that humanity was projecting meaning onto phenomena it could not yet fully measure. But privately, even the skeptics felt the weight of something greater. The comet's influence was now undeniable, weather patterns bent in ways that mirrored its rhythms. Ocean tides rose and fell with unusual precision, as though guided by a force beyond the moon's pull. Migratory species shifted their routes in uncanny synchrony, aligning themselves with the comet's arc. Entire ecosystems seemed to tremble on the edge of transformation, and the dreams grew stronger, no longer limited to scattered individuals. The visions spread across populations. Entire groups, separated by oceans and continents, awoke from sleep, describing the same dream, standing upon a crystalline plain beneath a sky filled with strange constellations. They described walking toward a structure of impossible geometry where light flowed like water and voices sang without sound. Some spoke of doors opening, others of paths leading to unknown destinations. But the most haunting detail was this: in every dream they felt watched, not threatened, not harmed, but observed, as though the comet itself was studying them in return. Governments could no longer keep control of the narrative. What had begun as careful scientific updates and cautious press releases now erupted into open panic, hope, and speculation. Some leaders urged calm, framing the comet as an opportunity for unity and discovery. Others warned of danger, invoking emergency measures and preparing for the worst. Yet no policy, no speech, no reassurance could change the fact that something extraordinary was unfolding before all eyes. And then, the shadows returned. Telescopes detected faint objects trailing behind the comet, moving in patterns too precise for debris. At first, they appeared as specks, indistinguishable from the dust and gas. But as they drew nearer, their movement became impossible to dismiss. They shifted positions, maintained formation, and at times seemed to weave in and out of the comet's luminous tail. Some described them as companions, guardians, or even drones. Others feared they were parasites, clinging to the comet's wake, waiting for their chance to reveal themselves. The most unsettling part was their number. What had begun as 2 or 3 became dozens, and in some observations the shadows seemed to multiply, as though they were not separate bodies, but manifestations of something larger, flickering between forms we could not fully perceive. Theories spread faster than data. Were these fragments of the comet breaking off and reassembling? Were they probes dispatched by the core itself? Or were they something entirely alien, entities of light and shadow that had traveled alongside the comet for untold eons? Whatever they were watching us, just as surely as we were watching them. It was at this point that humanity's sense of awe began to tip into fear. For if 3i Atlas carried with it companions or constructs, or entities, then its arrival was not simply the arrival of a rock and ice body. It was the arrival of something more, something deliberate, something with intent. The comet's passage was now only days away. The rhythm of its pulses grew stronger, felt not just by instruments, but by human hearts, beating in eerie resonance with its cosmic signal. Hospitals reported surges in patients experiencing arrhythmias, their heartbeats thrown into syncopation with the comet's cycles. Some collapsed without warning, only to recover moments later, claiming they had seen visions of light and shadow while unconscious. As fear mounted, others embraced the mystery. Spiritual movements blossomed overnight, calling 3i Atlas the harbinger of a new age. Some gathered in fields and mountaintops, holding vigils beneath the glowing arc, convinced they were about to be transformed. Artists painted, musicians composed, poets wrote, all inspired by the sense that humanity was on the edge of something profound, something irreversible, and still the comet came closer, 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 its fissures glowing brighter, its companions multiplying, its rhythm deepening into every fiber of the earth. And so the world waited, watched, held its breath, because now the question was no longer whether 3i Atlas carried life or memory or meaning. The question was whether it carried destiny, and destiny, like the comet itself, could not be stopped.